Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 76 based on novel. So let's start. In the main room, Hu Linga was sprawled on the dragon Chilene's back. From that position, she sneakily opened her eyes to see the heads rolling off. It was a queer sight. There was clearly no enemy, but when the strong practitioners of Celestial Being Realm stepped into the courtyard, they would immediately die an unnatural death. The others reacted as if they had met a great enemy. A Celestial Being Realm practitioner gave a shout, and his sword chi covered his entire body like frost as he entered the courtyard. With a wary gaze, he swept his eyes everywhere. His sword skill was intricate, and there were countless sword lights swimming around his body like incomparably fine fishes. The method he had taken was a passive one to defend oneself. With thousands of fine sword fishes, which contained his incomparably dense cultivation swimming around him, he could have them immediately counterattack, when met with hostility, and deliver a killing blow. He had no choice but to do this since the enemy came and went without leaving any traces or shadow, so he couldn't see where the enemy was exactly and how he had made his move. With so many strong practitioners of Celestial Being Realm having lost their lives here, it was just too strange. He didn't meet any danger right away, but he didn't dare to let his guard down as he slowly walked towards the main room that Qin Mu and the rest were sleeping in. There, he saw a painting hanging in the room. Qin Mu had lighted up a candle in front of this painting, lighting it up. On the painting was the back of a middle-aged man with a sword strapped to it. The middle-aged man's face was slightly tilted, as if he was using the corner of his eye to glance at the painter. That corner of the eye revealed an astonishingly murderous intent. This lithe glance was captured by the painter, who turned it into a painting. Even though there was only the middle-aged man in the picture, it gave people the feeling that there was an endless amount of information, which wasn't drawn, and it lay hidden in the blank spaces around. This was the conclusion of a terrifying military campaign. Countless corpses of strong practitioners lay at the feet of this middle-aged man, floating in a sea of blood overflowing to the sky. The white bones were dyed red by blood and reflected an abnormal color. Countless lost souls that had died under the sword were captured by the messengers of death and dragged to the depths of gloom. In there, a devil god with 2 long horns that had 9 bends was currently holding a banquet to celebrate the souls of all the strong practitioners, becoming his guests and food. This was the information hidden in the blank spaces of this painting. In the courtyard, the expert of Celestial Being Realm was stunned when he saw this painting and the person in it. He saw his own head sliding from his neck and felt everything becoming incredibly slow as he fell into a darkness that had no light. He felt himself sinking downwards endlessly, never reaching the bottom of that darkness. Thump! His head landed on the ground and tumbled 2 rounds. His eyes were still staring wide open. Suddenly, a huge hand stretched over and grabbed his head. There were still 9 people outside the courtyard, who stood there with terror on their faces. Only the white-eyebrowed elder, Daoist Qing Shan, was still composed. He was the one who had grabbed the head of the Celestial Being Realm expert. He was also the only great expert of life and death realm among all of them. Daoist Qing Shan looked into the eyes of the expert and let out a deep breath. Superb sword. The other 8 people immediately looked over and asked in trembling voices, what did Senior Qing Shan discover? Look at his eyes. The 8 people gathered over and saw that there was a sword light in both the left and the right eye of this expert. The sword seemed to have gone straight towards his face, and in the next instant, the life of this expert had ended. Daoist Qing Shan lifted the head and looked towards the main room, in which Qin Mu and the rest were sleeping. The sword is from there. What exactly is there? He slowly moved his body and found a good angle. Like this, he saw the flickering light of a candle and a corner of a painting. It's a painting. I can see the corner of the shirt of the person in the painting. Senior Qing Shan, is there a need for such trouble? Won't it be fine, just to destroy this entire house and the people inside? A strong practitioner of Celestial Being Realm suddenly made a move, and his sword pellet rose into the air. A pillar-like sword light came out and stabbed towards the house where Qin Mu and the rest were in with a whoosh. That sword pillar was incomparably thick, and everything it passed by was shredded to pieces. This was Spiral's sword form, which Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had founded. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was not a selfish person. The sword forms he founded were mostly passed down, and there were many sword sects in the martial world that cultivated his sword mastery. The person who had made his move just then was one of the professionals. His understanding of Spiral's sword form was above that of many others. This move sword was impressive, and if it swept into the main room, it would definitely grind everything there to powder, removing it from existence. No matter if it was Qin Mu, Juqian Devil King, or the Dragon Qilin, all of them would be shredded into pieces. Don't point your murderous intent at that painting. Daoist Qing Shan's expression changed suddenly, and he wanted to stop the other, but it was already too late. The sword pillar seemed to have met a formless barrier, for it stopped in the air before disintegrating inch by inch. It then exploded with a bang. A red mark appeared at the heart of the strong practitioner's brows, and a drop of fresh blood dripped out before he collapsed on the ground. Be careful, on your guard. Daoist Qing Shan shouted sternly. His aura burst forth, and 6 booms rang out from his body. Spirit embryo, 5 elements, 6 directions, 7 stars, celestial being, life and death, his 6 great divine treasures had opened all at once. Around him, the strong practitioners of celestial being realm couldn't maintain their footings, and were forced to move back continuously by his overflowing aura. Whoosh! Behind Daoist Qing Shan, an apparition of a god that had a dragon's head and a human body appeared. It looked like the god had descended with half of his body still in the void, while the other half was stepping into reality. Daoist Qing Shan grabbed onto a mirror and stared anxiously at Qin Mu and the rest, who were still sleeping in the main room, before shouting in a hoarse voice. Aren't you guys going to be on guard? Are you courting disaster? At this moment, Qin Mu, who was pretending to be asleep in the main room, narrowed his eyes, and saw a human figure floating down from the wall behind him. He could see the shadow of a middle-aged man's back, which was elongated by the candle's light. This middle-aged man, that had walked down from the painting was tall and slim, and had a treasure sword on his back. He was very quiet, and seemed like a spirit, with no corporeal body, as he floated towards the courtyard. The figure raised its head to look at the sky, and pulled out the sword on its back. The man waved his sword around and sang in a low voice, as the sword lights moved while the fishes and dragons danced. Sword of founding emperor, sea of blood, mountains and rivers exist, vast and obscure heart, looking around left and right, no more people donning the clothes of homeland. Qin Mu didn't dare to move at all, feeling that there were sharp sword chi and sword lights everywhere in this world that was moving to and fro beside him, swimming in time and space. He shut his eyes, but there were still sword lights flashing in front of his eyes, tearing apart the darkness. He heard sword chi, which was very rapid and fleeting, breaking through the air. He opened his eyes, and there were sword lights crisscrossing everywhere in front of him. Angry shouts came from outside of the courtyard, and a terrifying aftermath suddenly bombarded him. In the dusky night, the other houses of the village flew into the sky, disintegrating and shattering into pieces. Qin Mu's heart thumped wildly. Grandpa Deaf had bestowed a soul, he had bestowed a soul to village chief in the painting. Suddenly, all of the sound and light vanished, along with the low singing voice. Qin Mu's eyes were half opened, and he could faintly see a figure walking towards him as if it wanted to return to the painting behind him. Suddenly, that figure fell apart and turned into a pool of ink on the ground. Qin Mu was stunned for a moment, then immediately opened his eyes. He took a careful look backward and saw a piece of white paper hanging on the wall. The light from the lamp flickered, while the surroundings were completely silent. Qin Mu let out a deep breath, and Hulinga opened her eyes and asked in a low voice, "Young master. It's safe now, let's sleep." He then added, "We still need to cross the mountains tomorrow and walk for quite a long time." Huling buried her head down, and Qin Mu also lay down. Looking at the white paper behind the candle's light, he felt tranquility in his heart. The next day, Qin Mu woke up and came to the courtyard. The little village from yesterday had turned into a piece of empty land, with no sign of any of the other houses. Only half of their own courtyard remained, with over half of the walls already collapsed. The east room was mostly gone, while the west room's ceiling was missing. Qin Mu washed up and started making breakfast with his wok. Hu Ling'e adjusted Juqian, Devil King's mechanism, and ran out with him. While she was out, she cried out non-stop in astonishment. The dragon Qilin woke up groggily and took a look outside. He gave a yawn and licked his claws, using them to wash his face before asking curiously, "Where are we now? Where did the village from yesterday go? Cult Master, is it time for breakfast? Can you scatter some cumin on my scarlet fire spirit pills today? I would like a change of taste." Qin Mu grabbed some cumin and took out half a bucket of scarlet fire spirit pills, on which he scattered the cumin. The dragon Qilin lowered his head to look at his food before raising his head up in doubt. "It's only half a bucket." Qin Mu said angrily, "You are so fat that you can't even run now. Half a bucket is more than enough." The dragon Qilin said, "My body is still growing. If you dock my food, I won't be able to grow." "Your body is still growing." Qin Mu blew up and tried to pinch the flesh on the dragon Qilin's belly and discovered that he couldn't do it at all. "Your body isn't growing, so it's your fat that's growing. Try pinching yourself and see if you can pinch a fold out." The dragon Qilin also stretched out his claws to pinch and discovered that he couldn't pinch it as well. "My constitution is one that can grow fats even if I drink cool water." Hu Ling'e ran over and said angrily, "Fatty dragon, you shall drink cool water from today onwards then." The dragon Qilin immediately protected the scarlet fire spirit pills in front of him and smiled apologetically. "Aren't I just scared I will starve and want to eat slightly more? All right, half a bucket it is, no less, or else I'm really going to become skin and bones." Juqian Devil King walked over when he saw that Qin Mu had finished eating and was taking down the painting, which was now simple white paper. "This painting was painted by your elder?" Qin Mu nodded. Juqian Devil King was silent for a moment, then asked, "The person in the painting is also your elder?" Qin Mu placed the scroll painting into his Daotai sack with a nod. Juqian Devil King said, "I'm not afraid of them. However, it's by no means a good way to keep me trapped in this devil god sculpture. So why don't you undo the seal so my consciousness can leave your world and return to Juqian to never step onto this land? How about it?" Qin Mu didn't express his opinion and instead said, "Ling'e, eat faster so we can continue on our journey." Juqian Devil King's head started to ache. After Hu Ling'e was full, Qin Mu came forward to help wash the bowls and utensils, then put the cleanly washed bowls and utensils back into Daotai sack. He looked at the rations inside and said, "There's enough for us to last till Great Ruins. Lord Devil King, let's go." Juqian Devil King went after, saying, "I'm not afraid of them. If my true body descended, I would be afraid of nobody." God-broken mountain range stretched over tens of thousands of miles, and when Qin Mu and the rest reached its bottom, they could only see the incomparably precipitous mountain range that was hard to cross for even the nimble apes and flying birds. Qin Mu took out the geographical map of Eternal Peace and carefully searched for something before smiling. "Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon isn't far from here. Let's go." Just as he was saying that, a line parted from the dark cloud in the sky, and a huge red snake popped its head out, spewing great flames. The heat scattered the cloud layer in all directions, and a brilliant swarm of golden insects flew out in all directions. Some of them went in the direction of the group of 4. Other people beat the young and comes the old, mine's better, beats the old and comes the young. Qin Mu sighed ruefully in his heart. It was really good to be Heavenly Devil Cult Master. Since Long Jianan and the woman from Three Wonders Castle had come here, it meant that the other young experts were around too. If Qin Mu was caught by these people, it would be troublesome. Hu Ling'e controlled the demon wind and swept away the insects that were flying over, sending them far away. "Young Master, aren't these people going home for New Year's? They probably treat killing me as New Year's celebration." Qin Mu shook his head and said, "Other than killing me, they still want to kill the Emperor. They definitely can't kill me, but I wonder if they can kill the Emperor. After all, the Emperor is a much bigger target than me." Hu Ling'e had handled the situation very well by blowing the insects away. Long Jianan and the rest wouldn't be able to find this place and locate Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon. This place wasn't far from where they were, and Qin Mu started walking towards it. The terrain here was not precipitous like in the other areas, however, there was something different around here. The surroundings were bleak, with no greenery at all. The entire mountain was littered with withered trees, which were black like the ground. This made people associate it with being bad. What if they kill the emperor? Hu Linga asked. Qin Mu took the first step into Lonely Mountain Ridge, and Hu Linga immediately followed up by jumping onto the dragon Chilin's back. She then skipped onto its head to look around. If they killed the emperor and had the crown prince ascend, Imperial Preceptor's reform will be overturned, Qin Mu answered. Imperial Preceptor will then get rid of the crown prince and change to an obedient emperor. But even if Imperial Preceptor doesn't do that, I will do it. I will also invite Imperial Preceptor to become the fourth cult Heavenly King since I have reserved this seat for him for quite a long time. However, they will not be able to kill the emperor and Imperial Preceptor will not be willing to be the fourth Heavenly King. Withered trees littered the ground, and there were no branches or leaves. The little white fox was pretty nervous, as she felt these withered stems were like razor-sharp claws and the warped trunks were like scary faces. All of them terrified her. There's blood of a god and a devil here, which tainted this place. Juqian Devil King swatted a few insects flying to him before grabbing a clump of soil and rubbing it. Strange, this blood is very strange. I can't tell if it belonged to a god or a devil. There are parts of both of them in it. A blood which contained both the blood of a god and the blood of a devil, interesting. Qin Mu asked with curiosity, Lord Devil King, could the blood of a god and a devil have been scattered here at the same time? He had seen the blood of a devil god, which was very powerful. He had entered the darkness of great ruins with village chief back then, and village chief had managed to injure a devil god in the darkness. One drop of blood from that devil god dripped onto the soil, and the greenery in a radius of 300 yards had all withered, becoming much like the situation in Lonely Mountain Ridge. That was just one drop of devil blood. Here, however, the entire Lonely Mountain Ridge canyon had been tainted, which showed that there was definitely quite a large amount of god and devil's blood spilled here. It's not that. Juqian Devil King shook his head and said, it's the same type of blood. It's just that this kind of blood contains both god and devil attributes at the same time. Your knowledge is still shallow and can't see the difference between the two options. The blood of a god indicates life, while the blood of a devil indicates death. The blood that was spilled on Lonely Mountain Ridge had both the attributes at the same time, with the god attribute hidden under the soil while the devil attribute was above, killing everything that comes out from the ground. These trees are dead, but their roots are not. On the contrary, they are abnormally healthy and strong. Some might even become spirits by relying on the life force of the god's blood. Hu Linga immediately asked, will roots become demons? They will, said Juqian Devil King. They should become a strange organism, which grows many tentacles. Even though Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon had the name of a canyon, its terrain was quite high. Yet when compared to the mountain ranges beside it, it was much lower. This black canyon was winding upwards, and the mountain road wasn't easy to walk on. Heavenly Devil Cult must have gone through a lot of trouble to smuggle goods through here. Once in a while, there would be a black stone tablet on the road which was about a dozen yards high. They contained rune markings, and Qin Mu took a while to identify them. It's demon suppression runes from our sacred cult. Linga, don't touch them, you will be sucked in if you activate them. Hu Linga jumped in shock. There are quite a lot of demon suppression stones in Lonely Mountain Ridge, so it seems like Heavenly Saint Cult had spent quite a lot of effort in paving this passage. This also means that there are many demons here which are very terrifying. Qin Mu counted the number of demon suppression black stone tablets he had met on the way, and there were as many as 46 of them. This was not even half of the journey, so if the stone tablets could only suppress one demon each, that would make 46 demons this far. However, demon suppression black stone tablets were a dozen yards high, so it was impossible that they were only suppressing one demon each. Based on their size, the number of demons suppressed here should be pretty impressive. They came to the center of the valley and saw a lake there. Snow was everywhere in the mountains, along with cold weather, yet there was actually a lake here, which would make people click their tongues in wonder. There was also an old dried-up tree beside the lake which covered a very wide area. Densely packed stone tablets, which numbered to several hundred pieces, surrounded the tree and the lake entirely. Qin Mu and the rest jumped in shock. For so many demon suppression black stone tablets to be here, could there be a few hundred demons being suppressed here? Even though Qin Mu was the devil cult master of Heavenly Devil Cult, he didn't know much about this passage in Lonely Mountain Ridge. He didn't know what Heavenly Devil Cult had met here back then. Could it be a demon country? Qin Mu muttered. However, why are there so many stone tablets around this ancient tree? It doesn't seem like many demons are being suppressed, but instead this tree and the lake. Just as he said this, he suddenly heard a call for help from the lake. The dragon Qin was tall, so his gaze went past the black stone tablet when he raised his head. Taking a glance, he said slowly, "There's a woman bathing there." "Help, help," she cried out again. Hu Linga immediately jumped onto the dragon Qin's head and looked towards the lake before saying angrily, "Fatty dragon, is that bathing? She's obviously drowning." "It's bathing," the dragon Qin said slowly. "She's not wearing clothes, so she's naturally bathing. Have you seen anyone drown while being naked?" "Naked?" Jiutian Devil King was surprised and delighted and hurriedly climbed to the head of the dragon Qin to look towards the lake. There was indeed a naked woman drowning in the lake, and he could see her seductive figure struggling in the water. With all the curves, Jiutian Devil King got an eyeful and exclaimed in admiration, "This demoness is beautiful. Rascal, come have a look." Qin Mu smiled. "There are still pursuers behind, let's go." After he said it, he took a sneaky glance through the gap between the black stone tablets. "Young master is an upright gentleman." Hu Linga was full of confidence and praise. "The officials outside, help me," the woman in the lake cried out miserably. "Quickly push down the stone tablets and save me, I'll then devote my life to you." Qin Mu and the rest took a detour around the lake, and Hu Linga said loudly, "Demoness, my young master will not be tricked by you. You should know that my young master is the sacred cult master of Heavenly Saint Cult." Suddenly, the woman became silent, and a sinister voice sounded out, "Sacred cult master of Heavenly Saint Cult." Whoosh! The water in the lake that was surrounded by the black stone tablets overflowed into the sky as countless pitch-black roots came rushing up like tentacles. At the end of each one was a naked woman in her prime of youth. They all looked at Qin Mu, and countless ear-piercing shrieks rang out in the air. "Heavenly Saint Cult! Heavenly Saint Cult is the one who suppressed me here. They used these black stone tablets to suppress my body, to suppress my legs and my hands." Boom, boom. In Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon, the black stone tablets trembled as a huge body struggled under them, trying to break the seals. Qin Mu jumped in shock. He had seen so many black stone tablets there were in Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon, and thought they were suppressing countless demons, maybe even a whole country. Never did he think that all these stone tablets were suppressing a single huge demon. The black tablets trembled continuously, and the soil beside them loosened as if they were going to be uprooted. The runes suddenly lighted up, and the stone tablets suddenly became like huge mountains that were incomparably heavy. They pressed down on the demon of Lonely Mountain Ridge, making it unable to move. "I want revenge." In the sky above the lake, the faces of the countless women warped and cried out mournfully, "I want to kill every single person in your Heavenly Saint Cult." The black stone tablets around the lake lighted up, and the light from the runes shone on the ancient tree. The tentacles above the lake seemed to be dragged down by a weird force, and the women shrieked miserably. They tried to grab around, but they couldn't get hold onto anything and were gradually dragged into the lake. This lake should be the damaged land that received the blood of a god and a devil. That blood was then absorbed by this ancient tree. Jiutian Devil King asked in bewilderment, "Why does your homeland have so much strange stuff?" Qin Mu smiled. "My homeland has much stranger things than this. Let us hurry and walk out of Lonely Mountain Ridge before nightfall so we can find a safe place." "What a pity." Jiutian Devil King smacked his lips and said, "That little demoness was quite pretty, much prettier than the women in my Jiutian." At this moment, Long Jianan and Xiao Yu met up with scholar Lan Yu, monk Ban Kai, and Yuan Shan while looking for traces of Qin Mu. Suddenly, they felt a tremble coming from Lonely Mountain Ridge, and they all looked towards there. Scholar Lan Yu cried out, "Heavenly Devil Cult Master went to God-Broken Mountain Range. Isn't he afraid of getting shot by the mysterious pearl crossbows?" Xiao Yu waved her hand, and countless insects flew in the direction of Lonely Mountain Ridge. Heavenly Devil Cult Master is cunning, so if he went through God-Broken Mountain Range, there probably is a way to survive there. My insects will find a path, and we shall follow behind. Everyone hurried towards Lonely Mountain Ridge while the swarm of insects poured forward. While flapping their wings, they came to the lakeside where they could see demon clouds permeating the air, and hear never-ending cries of, "Heavenly Devil Cult Master, I will kill you. I will definitely kill you and eliminate Heavenly Saint Cult." Everyone looked at each other, and Monk Ban Kai coughed, then said loudly, "Demonis, what grudge do you have with Heavenly Devil Cult Master?" A woman in the prime of her youth revealed her naked body on the surface of the lake while crying pitifully, "Heavenly Saint Cult has been suppressing me here for a few hundred years. The grudge between him and me is as deep as the ocean, and we cannot live under the same sky. If you can save me, I am willing to devote my life to you." Monk Ban Kai smiled. "I'm a monk, so I don't need you to devote your life to me. You just have to convert to Buddhism and assist me in killing Heavenly Devil Cult Master. Then this little monk will break the seal here and release you." "I am willing to convert to Buddhism," the woman cried out in surprise and delight. Scholar Lan Yu, Yuan Shan, Yui, and the rest frowned as they wanted to advise against it, but Monk Ban Kai had already pulled out a black stone tablet and thrown it on the ground. "Fellow Dao friends, this is a demon that Heavenly Devil Cult has suppressed, and since Heavenly Devil Cult belongs to the Devil Path, the demon they suppressed must be a good demon. Everyone, help me push down all these demon suppression stones to save this friend." Everyone could only go forward and push down the stone tablets together. Boom! The mountains trembled, and the roots rose up once again. Below the tree, a huge black ball swelled up continuously, becoming bigger and bigger. The black roots squirmed like flood dragons and huge snakes, revealing countless white bones among themselves. Monk Ban Kai saw these white bones buried under, and felt a bone-chilling cold go down his spine. He suddenly had a thought that this demon, which Heavenly Devil Cult had suppressed, might not be a friend of the same path. On the contrary, it could be an existence that was even more wicked than Heavenly Devil Cult. "Quickly run!" Long Jianan screeched. Everyone hurriedly sprinted away in the direction of great ruins. "I'm free, I'm finally free." Countless mournful cries could be heard behind them as black stone tablets trembled before collapsing onto the ground. Thick tentacles tunneled out from the ground, waving non-stop. At the end of each root was a beautiful smiling woman. Heavenly Saint Cult said I had eaten too many humans, so they suppressed me here. Thank you, little monk. I can finally eat humans again." Monk Ban Kai's scalp turned numb. They saw the terrain trembling violently while they were running and countless rocks flying in all directions. Among the rocks, pitch-black tentacles tunneled out, which were the roots of the Lonely Mountain Ridge root demon. Heavenly Devil Cult had used demon suppression, black stone tablets, to suppress her roots, while the many black stone tablets around the lake and the ancient tree were to suppress her head. Now that the black stone tablets that were suppressing the head were pushed down by Monk Ban Kai and the rest, the root demon could once again use her strength, which could be said to be terrifying, causing the mountain ranges to tremble non-stop. She used her strength, and the black stone tablets that were suppressing her roots flew up one after another, shattering under her terrifying power. How does an ordinary root demon have such strength? Monk Ban Kai cried out. Was this tree demon purposefully placed here by Heavenly Devil Cult to harm people? Suddenly, thick roots swept towards them, and at the front of each one hung a beautiful woman. Trying to leave. "You guys saved me, and I haven't repaid you guys yet. Why don't all of you stay and become one with me?" Xiao Yu waved her sleeves, and countless insects flew out towards the roots. These insects grew larger in the wind and became 3 yards long by the time they pounced to gnaw on the roots. However, The razor-sharp teeth of these insects shattered into pieces, unable to bite through. Qiu jumped in shock when she saw small roots, which then pierced the venomous insects, growing out from the navels of those women hanging on the roots. In an instant, only the shells of the venomous insects were left, while the flesh inside had vanished. The venomous insects I raise can even bite through spirit weapons, yet these roots are tougher than that. Qiu cried out. A root came from behind them, and Yuan Shan leaped up while holding a sword pellet over his head. He gave a stab and pierced through one woman before spinning his sword to sever her head. The woman's head fell onto the ground and immediately withered, turning into a black charcoal that was shaped like a head. Meanwhile, the headless woman on the root grew out another head. Yuan Shan was astonished and wanted to slice the root apart, when another one stabbed him like lightning. He hurriedly executed his sword pellet, wanting to sever the root that was at his back, but his body suddenly shriveled. His flesh vanished in an instant, so only his skin was left. The other people had originally wanted to save him, but when they saw what had happened, they immediately rushed out of the canyon. Behind them, there were countless black-colored tentacles waving about and stabbing into the two mountains on their sides, pulling the true body out from the ground. That true body was a behemoth that was like a ball of thread with countless roots hanging down. The movement of this behemoth was too great, which activated the mysterious pearl crossbows that were on both sides of the mountain. The mysterious pearl crossbows detected the life force of this demon, and shot at it automatically. Two incomparably thick arrow lights flew through the sky and hit the lonely mountain ridge root demon, which was like a big black ball. The demon cried out miserably, as if there were countless voices overlapping each other, causing an avalanche around the mountains. Long Jianan and the rest were almost caught by the tentacles when luckily the mysterious pearl crossbows inflicted pain to the demon, which made it retract its tentacles, allowing them to escape. These mysterious pearl crossbows can even kill celestial beings, so they can definitely kill this demon. Everyone let out a sigh of relief, then suddenly saw the lonely mountain ridge root demon waving her tentacles to sweep at the mysterious pearl crossbows up the mountains. With a loud bang, one of them was shattered into pieces, and a huge bronze arm rolled off from the top of a mountain. Next, the mysterious pearl crossbow on the other mountain was also shattered. The faces of Long Jianan and the rest turned ashen. They immediately jumped onto the back of the red snake Long Jianan had raised and slithered forward frantically. When they finally escaped Lonely Mountain Ridge, they took a look back. Countless roots that were like black pythons were climbing towards them, and a dull rolling sound could be heard coming from the canyon. It was obvious that the terrifying root demon was too heavy and was unable to fly. It could only rely on her roots to climb the cliff, pushing herself forward. This demon was too huge, so when she was moving, her body crashed repeatedly into the two mountains beside her, shaking them. Heavenly Devil Cult is truly sinful, to raise such a huge demon to harm people. It was hard to say if Monk Ban Kai was trembling from fury or fear when he said angrily, "How many people have they killed to be able to raise a demon to this level? I hate how my abilities are too weak to subdue it." Everyone knew it was because he felt guilty for releasing this demon that he pushed all the blame to Heavenly Devil Cult. They didn't call him out on it though and said to one after another, "It's lucky that this demon has been lured by us to Great Ruins and didn't go to kill the people of Eternal Peace." The people in Great Ruins are all abandoned people and villains that have nowhere else to go. This demon creating havoc in Great Ruins could also be considered subduing devils and protecting the Tao. Monk Ban Kai's expression softened, and he said, "Heavenly Devil Cult Master must have purposefully made a din to lure us into the valley so he could borrow the power of this demon to harm us. But heaven helps the worthy, so we have managed to escape with our lives, and he must be disappointed, right?" Just as he said that, the body of the Lonely Mountain Ridge root demon squeezed out of the canyon and rolled down the slope, her tentacles flailing non-stop. Everyone immediately rose into the air and Scholar Lan Yu said solemnly, "This demon can't fly so everyone can be at ease." At this moment, a bird cry sounded out, and sharp wind bombarded the youth's face. A huge golden-winged bird flew towards him like lightning, and its two claws grasped onto his shoulders, lifting him away. Scholar Lan Yu felt pain on his shoulders. His left and right shoulder blades were pierced by the bird's claws. At that moment, He was about to execute a divine art to save himself, but the huge golden-winged bird lowered its head to peck at him. His skull was shattered into pieces, as the bird carried his headless body into the depths of a forest. The group had arrived at Great Ruins, which was a savage land without law. The strange beasts here didn't care if one was a disciple from a reputable sect or not. In the eyes of these creatures, there was only food and not food. Qiu Yu said in a panic, "Don't fly in the sky, go toward the ground." Everyone immediately landed on the ground, and behind them, the lonely mountain ridge root demon came chasing over. As they ran for their lives, they passed by a lake, and a huge fish suddenly jumped. It bit onto a young expert, killing them instantly before dragging them into the water. The lonely mountain ridge root demon came rolling over, and countless roots pierced the lake. The weird fish inside immediately jumped out of the water, and followed behind Qiu Yu and the rest. That fish actually ran, like it was flying, and soon surpassed everyone, stunning them. After sprinting for over 10 miles to avoid the slaughter of the lonely mountain ridge root demon behind them, the group saw rows of trees that were uprooted. Devil King, Great Ruins are very dangerous, so if you have nothing to do, don't fly in the sky. Far away, Qin Mu was sitting on the dragon Chilean's back and seemed very relaxed. We have our own unique rules in Great Ruins. You can fly in the sky if you want, but you must fly low and not be too flamboyant. If you think you are capable enough, you can fly slightly higher, but if the territorial strange beasts are not happy, they will come over and eat you. Ju Qian Devil King sneered. Isn't this just the strong preying on the weak? I understand this rule, my Ju Qian functions under the same rule. And also, don't go out when it's dark. Qin Mu had a grim expression. Unless you have the ability of a god or a devil, don't ever go into the darkness. It will be just a road to death. Ju Qian Devil King chuckled. What's so scary about the dark? My Ju Qian is already broken to the point where everything is complete darkness. There's light only in some place, and it's where life can still thrive. In the darkness, I'm like a fish in the water. I'll show you how to frolic around at night. Hu Linga rolled her eyes. In the eyes of the little fox, Ju Qian Devil King was already dead. Qin Mu continued, there's no law in our Great Ruins, so no matter who we meet, we must be polite. If we aren't polite and offended someone, it'll be easy for us to be gotten rid of. The more lawless a place is, the more polite people there are. Also, there are some terrifying gods and devils in Great Ruins. Some of them are sealed, some of them are suppressed, and some of them live luxuriously, so don't run around for nothing. Ju Qian Devil King jumped in shock. There are still gods and devils in this world. Quite a number of them. I've met a few before, Qin Mu said. As long as you grasp the rules of Great Ruins, it's actually a much safer place than Eternal Peace Empire. You can ask Linga if you don't believe me. Ju Qian Devil King took a look at Hu Linga, and she nodded repeatedly with deep sentiments. Eternal Peace is indeed much more dangerous than Great Ruins. The reason young master came out was to go to Eternal Peace Empire for experience. There's no experience for us in Great Ruins, so you can see how dangerous Eternal Peace Empire is. Suddenly, an earth-shattering boom came from behind them, and Qin Mu turned his head back to have a look. There, he saw countless tentacles flailing in the sky. A black behemoth with a mountain-like body was currently rushing over to him. On those tentacles hung naked women, who were smiling weirdly. Why is the demoness of Lonely Mountain Ridge released? Who was so dumb? Qin Mu turned a cold shudder to the women hanging from the Lonely Mountain Ridge root demon, who had already seen him, and were rushing over excitedly. Countless strange beasts were also running over in their direction. This demon is really courting death. It's really easy to die by rushing headlong in Great Ruins. Qin Mu shook his head. Even village chief wouldn't dare to be so reckless. Just as he was saying that, the ground suddenly trembled violently, and a huge palm, which was covered in golden fur, stretched out from underground. Flames blazed around the palm, which slammed down forcefully against Lonely Mountain Ridge root demon. The root demon flew away like a black ball which got smacked, disappearing into the distance. The strange beasts that were escaping for their lives stopped and turned back to have a look. All of them then returned back to their own territories. Juqian Devil King was stunned by the sight, unable to say a word. Qin Mu consoled him, it's fine, it's fine. Great ruins are like this. There are often weird things hidden around, but everything will be fine if you enter a temple to offer incense and pay respect to the gods. I reckon that Demonis had accidentally come into contact with some ruins and provoked the god there. Juqian Devil King's body was stiff, and he only let out a shaky breath after some time. It's too dangerous over here. I want to return to Juqian. The Devil King suddenly became agitated, and broken pieces of components spewed out from his four mouths on his four faces. How is your goddamn world a secular world? There are demons and ghosts everywhere. I won't invade your world anymore, okay? Let me go, I want to go home. Hulinga persuaded him, our great ruins are really safe, much safer than Eternal Peace Empire. You will definitely be fine if you follow young master. This video will end here.